Welcome aboard. On this week's episode, we talk Squid Game, Valhalla, and Game Pass. This is Triple XP.
Triple XP.
Welcome to the latest episode of Triple XP. I'm Shane, and I'm joined by Mike and Cheese.
What's up?
Hello.
We did miss last week's, 2 weeks ago's episode. Unfortunately, Cheese was extremely ill.
Which is funny
and
because
also-
now I have COVID and I'm here and I feel
And you're
much
here,
better
but-
than I did 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, you were like voiceless at that point.
It was awful. It was awful.
And I was technologyless. No camera, no microphone, and no ability to record said podcast. So we are now back after that very, very, very short interlude with new technology, new cameras, and a sexy gremlin.
Sexy gremlin, there she is.
Oh, I thought we were calling Mike
right.
the sexy gremlin.
She's bigger than I thought she would be.
Yeah, she's tall. She's thick.
Yeah.
She's
Got a
green.
very long arm.
Yeah, it's proper long.
Really
All the better to
When her legs get tired, she can just
all
walk
the
on
better
her
to
arms.
reach you with.
Like her arm literally reaches the floor, which I've never noticed about gremlins having extremely long arms before.
Yeah.
This is the extended edition.
Yeah, I mean, the more you know. So anyway, how are you both? Cheese, obviously, as you just stated, having COVID.
Yeah, I'm on day a week ago. So last Sunday was the day I had a fever and I knew I was probably not doing so hot. So this is day 8 of quarantine, I guess. Haven't left the house except for to ride in the car a couple of times, but
What are the isolation rules over there? How long have you got to stay in isolation for?
it's 10 days from work, but I think it's 2 weeks otherwise. So by the time I'm done, it'll be almost 2 full weeks, but I got to go back to work on Thursday. So I mean, I still don't have taste. I still don't have smell. The fatigue part of COVID is incredibly real. I'm sitting here and I'm tired and I'm sweaty and I just feel like crap. But other than that, I actually had it pretty easy. I'm pretty lucky. I never had a terrible cough. I did for a day. The fever only lasted a day, that kind of stuff. So I'm doing all right. Just been sitting on the couch and playing games and watching anime and that fun stuff. But the fatigue, but the fatigue part is gonna last probably another week or two, is what I've been told, and that's not fun. It's just draining. But I like laying on the couch anyway.
Mike, you were unlucky enough to have to isolate as well at one point, weren't you?
Yeah, well, Ellie got COVID, but the rules over here, it's I don't know if it's different or not, but I didn't have to isolate, but I just kind of chose just to be on the precautionary side.
Did you get tested?
But yeah, got tested negative. Like the whole family tested negative and everything. We just isolated it anyway. It's
Yeah.
more of a common sense thing to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ellie was real rough with it. She was out for a good few days. She's still not 100% now with her breathing and stuff, but on the mend definitely.
It's brutal. It's a lot.
Yeah, it is.
And it's not all at once. It has to run its course where the first day you have a runny nose and you get your cough and that kind of stuff. But the fatigue the entire time is just really draining.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we, just to be, again, on the safe side, we just separate bedrooms and just try to keep away from each other more than we usually do.
More than
Keep out each other's
usually.
hair.
Yeah, it's tough. Let's come away from COVID anyway, because that feels like it's been a topic of conversation forever.
Yeah,
and we've got lots that we all want to talk about. So, Mike, do you wanna kick us off?
Yeah, man. I'm really fucking tired today because I stayed up all night watching Squid Game, and it is so fucking good. It's my favorite show on Netflix in a long time. So those of you who don't know, if any of you watched it at all,
I'm 6 episodes in, I'm up to the 6th episode.
I haven't watched any yet.
it's getting good for you, Shane. And it just gets better. It's so good.
Yeah, I'm at the point where they're sort of doing mid-game cliffhangers at the moment, and it's frustratingly good.
Yeah,
wanting to
because
know what
the
happens
episodes are
next.
long, aren't they? Like an hour long each
Yeah.
episode. There's what 8, 9 episodes maybe.
Jeez.
Something like that.
I'm not sure.
Which it seems like a lot, but it's good enough to go run for an hour. And you're like, next episode, please. So yeah, I'm tired today because I've been up all night watching Squid Game. Any of you don't know what Squid Game is? It's this new show on Netflix. It's the most popular, trending one at the minute at this time. It's basically similar to like a battle royale type thing, but it's set in this sort of game showy kind of world where they're playing sort of old like school games that you'd play on like a playground pretty much. And then
I think
eventually,
the way I've been describing it to people that have spoken to me is imagine if the Saw series and Takeshi's Castle had a baby.
that's exactly it. Yeah, yeah.
I
So it's
don't
these
know what
like
that means.
depraved games where like they have to fight for survival. Like I can sort of talk about the first episode a little bit and kind of the game that they play there without getting too spoilery because it's episode 1. It's kind of the hook, isn't it? So they play a red light, green light game where they basically run from one end of the room to the other, and then if they get caught, they just get machine gunned down.
Oh, so it's like
and they're
win
just
or
like,
die.
yeah, and there's like 500
Yeah.
or so contestants,
Okay.
and then it's literally like the red light, green light. You know how that works. It's an old school game.
What,
We used
yeah,
to call it what time is it, Mr. Wolf?
that's
we
yeah.
played
I
it
was
in
trying to
primary
think
school.
of what it was called in English. I was like, what on
God.
earth did we used to call that game and couldn't think of it for
Yeah.
ages.
God damn, you're British.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's essentially that game as like a deadly game, and it's just there's just more and more of those types of games, and it's just glorious. It's so good. It's got so many like twists and turns and cliffhangers, and yeah, it's 100% worth a watch. I cannot recommend it enough. I'd score it like a straight 10 easy.
What I would say to any of our listeners that do have children, don't be fooled by the childish name and the colourful imagery that you see when like the trailer comes up. It looks very colourful and it looks very fun. It is brutal. Some of the it is a very gory show from the episodes that I've seen.
Yeah, it is. It's 100% a game show for adults.
Yeah, it's no holds barred.
Is it funny or is it just like entertaining because it's like high stakes?
It's there's some comedy in it. Like it's a mixed bag really, but it's mainly like
It's a
drama
well
sort of
balanced
thing.
show.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, did you watch it dubbed or subbed?
Dubbed. Yeah, dubbed.
So I've been watching it dubbed, and I think watching it subbed, it might be a little bit more intense because the dubbed acting almost puts a bit of a comical edge on it because it just doesn't fit in places, and they just it's literally and cheese. If you think like anime dubbing, it's that but in live action, and you know how over the top actors can be sometimes in anime dubbing because they're expected to be. Apply that to real life though, and it almost feels comical and like it doesn't properly fit. So I think that helps take the tone down a little bit if you're watching the dubbed version over the original Korean version.
I think just as like I think I tend to watch dubbed over subbed just because of how I take it in that kind of context, especially with anime as well. I'll just have it on the side, so I'll be listening to it more than watching it, and then when something interesting happens, I'll start watching it, kind of thing. But it was the same with Squid Game. I was like, oh, well, yeah, just stick it on. I was playing the PlayStation at the same time, and then I was like, this is good. Like, I'm gonna turn the PlayStation off and just sit and watch this and give it my time. It's definitely worth it. There's some other cool stories that have come from it. Like me and Cheese were talking about these earlier, how a Korean internet service provider is now suing Netflix because of just the amount of bandwidth that this show was taken. So that somehow suing it, it's like a crazy. I don't know how that's going to work, But yeah, they're suing Netflix basically. And then what was the other one that you mentioned as well?
Apparently
Is it
there's
the
like
phone number?
there's a phone number in the show, and it's a real phone
Yeah, that
number. And
was
some
it, yeah.
guy's gotten
So
like
the
4,000 calls a day, like people asking how they get into this game. That's from a fictional TV show where people die apparently. So why they're even trying to get in, I don't know.
So what's
Yeah.
even more comical about this, Mike? I don't know if you obviously didn't see this, you weren't aware. So the article came up that the number on the back of the card was a real number that obviously linked to somebody's home phone or mobile, and the British Ofcom tweeted it out saying this would never happen in the UK. That's why Ofcom are there, because basically in UK shows, Ofcom have a list of specially created numbers that that shows can use, so they don't physically exist
Okay.
anywhere else.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Ofcom took a moment to take a dig at Netflix to be like, well, this is kind of why we exist. Should have
Yeah,
come to
yeah.
us.
Still, I'd rather not pay for a TV license than.
Oh, 100%.
However, if I was that guy with that phone number, I'd be having the time of my life right now, because you have all these strangers calling you for one specific reason. If you just watch the show, you know what they're asking for. Play along. Why not? You have to have some good stories
This is
come
the
out
thing,
of this.
and this is what I'm
Yeah.
surprised about.
Give them a
is
time and
that-
place to meet and see if they do it.
This is the thing I'm surprised about, because shows have used numbers before, and a prime example of this, like one of the ones that's used it massively, was How I Met Your Mother. And whenever they had a number in the show, you could ring it and it would be an Easter egg for the show.
Yeah.
So like I think
Yeah.
it was like Barney Stinson's CV, or like his video about how to get a job. At the end, you could ring a number and it would be like a quote, like Barney Stinson quoting something to you. So I'm surprised that Netflix didn't get a number and have something on the end that was related to Squid Game, so that fans could call it up and it'd be like a little Easter egg to the show. So
Yeah.
they missed a bit of a trick there, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, then it's filmed in South Korea, but it's not necessarily Netflix that have. I think Netflix have just acquired the show, haven't they?
I'm not sure if they acquired or funded it.
Yeah.
I'm sure they have the technology to edit out a number on the back of a card,
Yeah,
though.
maybe.
I could figure out how to do it.
I mean, it's hard to keep track these days of what Netflix funds and what Netflix acquires and what Netflix just
Yeah.
comes across in the street.
Yeah.
Like, who knows what they've got under their belt these days? So many random shows that are cropping up on Netflix. So much random anime and random films. You just think, what is going on?
Yeah, I'm loving the memes that are coming from this as well. Like people saying they've been invited to the PlayStation event because it's got like on the card that he was given, it's got like a triangle,
Yep.
circle, and square. It's
saw
like
that too.
great.
They've already confirmed that there's going to be a season 2 as well. I know that.
That's great. Yeah, yeah. That's awesome then. I'm
I've
excited
seen
about
that.
that.
Yeah. Okay.
That's good. So what
So-
have you been up to, Shane?
I mean, I have also obviously been watching Squid Game, but more so, I had my 32nd birthday this week, and picked myself up was purchased for as a present a Xbox Series S. So I'm finally in the Game Pass world.
Nice.
Which one is the
Yeah,
S?
I've been.
Is that the white
It's
one?
the smaller
one that-
white one. Yeah, that
The one that looks like a
speaker.
shower speaker? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay.
So I've been wanting Game Pass for a while. I obviously have PS5. That's my core console. That's my main go-to. My PS4 is set aside just solely as an entertainment device now, and VR. It just gets used for Netflix and VR. That's it. So I've been wanting to pick up the Series S just to have that Game Pass ability and the opportunity to play those Xbox exclusives. I'm not one to sit on. Although I prefer PlayStation, I don't care about this whole console war. I just want to play good games. I don't give a shit who makes them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I picked that up. I've been playing Carrion the last couple of days. Really enjoying Carrion. I think I'm
Yeah.
right near the end now. Have you two had a chance to play that?
I have played a little bit of it. It's really good. And Game Pass just has like a ton of those like 2D side scrolling
Yeah.
Metroidvania type games.
Have you? Do
it's
you,
great
do you
for
know
those
of
types
this
of games.
game, Cheese?
Yeah. Oh, I do.
I don't.
I know you. You just,
Well,
So it
shocker.
was-
Of course, Mike knows what it is, and of course, I don't.
obviously.
Someday we'll just
Uh,
get to the point where we know these things.
Yeah.
So it's a Devolver Digital title, and it's one that it spoke out to me when it was first announced because it flips the idea on its head of like a horror alien sort of game. In that, obviously, normally you play as the hero who's hunting the aliens or being hunted by the aliens, and you've got to survive. Whereas in this one, it flips it around in that you are playing as the alien creature, um, in your quest to try and escape from the secret, like research lab that you've been
Oh,
captured and held in.
I do know about this
Um,
game.
yeah, so you get to like develop different abilities, and it's pretty brutal as well. You just go around eating people to get bigger. Um, but no, I've really enjoyed that. The other title I've dabbled in is Sea of Thieves for the first time, because a couple of the lads play that, and yeah, I've enjoyed it. It's actually a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I thought I'd hate it.
I think that game is only fun if you have a few friends and a few
Yeah.
beers.
100%. I tried to play it solo, and firstly, it is near on impossible to do anything solo anyway because you can't sail and man your cannons at the same time. It's practically
Yeah.
impossible to
Yeah.
fight anyone. You can do like little trips to islands to pick up treasure chests on your own, but that is literally all you can do on your own. So I've only really been playing it when the lads are on, and outside of that, I don't really touch it. But we had quite a good night the other night. Played it till 3 in the morning. Did a couple of quests, and yeah, just had some fun just going around, attacking people randomly because we're dicks. But
My issue with that game is it's a very shallow game. Like it's a one trick pony to me. Like it's like, all right, you're
Yeah.
gonna sail, you're gonna go find treasure, and you're gonna come back and do it again.
I agree.
Yeah.
There's not a huge amount of substance,
Yeah.
um, and I think that's one of the things where it's not going to be a game I go to every week or every day. It's going to be a once a month, like have a little run on it.
Yeah.
Oh, we don't really want to play anything else. Let's have a go on that.
Yeah.
I think it's a great game for the likes of streamers and stuff who are kind of creating their own content on it, and then it's
Yeah.
become just a sandbox for them to play in basically. But yeah,
Yeah,
like you said,
definitely.
Cheese, it's not got much substance to it other than just go here,
But it is a fun game where you're
get
like,
the
all
treasure.
right. I think I played with Jedi one time actually, or a couple of times where we hopped on, we played, we hung out, we chatted. Like it's just like kind of something to do, but it's not like uh I
It's
don't know.
almost like a virtual hangout space, but with a bit more to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really it is.
Like that's what it is. It's a virtual hangout space, but at the same time, you get to be a pirate.
Yeah, it's not like
Um,
Splitgate or any other game where you can like party chat, but like there's actual game modes to play. You're just like, all right, are you gonna fix that sail so we can go this way? Like,
yeah, exactly that. But no, I've enjoyed the time I've had with it, and I must say I'm impressed with Game Pass. It's it's exactly what I expected, to be fair, but I am impressed with the quality of what's on there. It's not perfect because I'd say out of the 100 odd games on there, however many games it is now, there's probably only 20 that I'm actually interested in.
yeah,
There's a lot on there that's not rubbish by any means, because I'm sure they're very good games to the people that enjoy them, but they're the lower level indie titles that aren't necessarily my cup of tea, or games that don't necessarily interest me massively, that I'm not gonna waste time downloading or dipping into because I just know I'm not going to enjoy them.
yeah,
Um,
Yeah, like I always say that it's like an all-you-can-eat buffet of like 6 out of 10 games. Like a lot of them are kind of just okay games, like good
mm,
games. There's not many like amazing titles there that are like you know those $60 titles that you get on like other platforms and stuff.
yeah,
Um,
definitely. There's a couple of big games that I've picked up from it to play, like Dragon Quest, whatever number it is, 9, 11, the most recent one.
oh
And I've been
yeah,
wanting to play that game for forever, and I kept meaning to rent it, and I just never got round to it. And I was like, oh, that's on there, so that's quality. I get to play that. They've just added that what's it called? The Nexus, the one that JB's played recently.
Scarlet Nexus.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
They've just added that on there, that's a pretty big game, 'cause it's considering
Mm.
it's still quite new. Um, and obviously Halo Infinite's going to be added in the next couple of weeks, as well as Back for Blood. So there's a couple of titles there that I'm interested in. But yeah, like you say, it is an all-you-can-eat buffet of very average titles with a couple of absolute zingers thrown in there. In fact, it
Yeah.
reminds me a lot of the all-you-can-eat Chinese buffet that's quite close to me, where most of the food is average, but they also do Coca-Cola chicken, and it's incredible. And that's my
All
top
right.
game is the Coca-Cola
All
cooked
right.
chicken,
Yeah.
and everything else is like 6 out of 10.
I think
Yeah.
with Game Pass too is it's relatively new, but they're kind of figuring out what lane they want to go in because Game Pass for console is different than Game Pass for PC. Like I got it first because I'm like, oh, I'd love to play Ori and the Blind Forest, and it was a great game, but it was a relatively small game compared to like the Master Chief Collection, which is also there. But as they figure out what they want to do and how they're going to compete with the PlayStation Collection, or I guess really how PlayStation's going to compete with Game Pass, they'll figure it out. And it's going to be where they're going to have a Halo Infinite or something like that. And it's going to keep people subscribed for a full year because they can play other games. They won't, but they could play other games. And ultimately, they're just going to keep paying for Halo month after month. But for the money, it's not an unreasonable price. It's much cheaper than going and buying even a single game on sale once a month that you'll never play, Mike. And there are some really good games on there, especially with their EA Game Pass thing that's also now part of it. Like you can play like last year's Madden and those kinds of games. That's a big thing for me because those games only change every 3 to 4, 5 years. So it's still fun to play them, but I don't want to pay for them anymore. So it's nice when they keep bundling all this stuff together into one Game Pass. But I am a little bummed because there's games like Brutal Legend and Skate and stuff that are old 360 titles that are only on the console side of it. So that's where I'm kind of starting to contemplate whether or not I need to get a Series S just to have so I can play those kinds of games that are otherwise lost forever.
Legends.
I never got to play that game, and I really want to.
I mean, I have downloaded it to play it again after our previous conversation about it. But no, you're right in what you're saying. Like price wise, if you were to just look at Back for Blood, for example, what's that, a 30 to 40 pound or $40-$50 game?
Yeah.
That's 4 months of Game Pass and that's that one title. If you download and play that one title, you've 44 months worth of Game Pass you've saved there if you were to purchase that outright.
Yeah.
So you only need what four AAA big titles a year, and you've paid the same amount for those games you would have bought than you have for the entirety of Game Pass for the year.
And Xbox knows that. That's why they're putting 3 big titles on, and you're like, okay, cool. And now you're going to be less inclined to be like, oh, I should pick up this game that I've heard of. It's supposed to be good. It's only $10 on sale right now. Versus now you can just go to Game Pass and there's a couple hundred, I don't even know how many games on there. And there's at least one that you've heard of. They're like, all right, it's free, so I'll download it. I'll give it a try. Might be a 2-hour game and you delete it. So what? Didn't cost you anything extra. So hopefully, at least that's how I'm rationalizing it. I'm using Game Pass to play these other games that I would have otherwise spent extra money on and never played.
I know exactly that. And I think the thing is, and I'm sure Mike, you'll agree with this from conversations we've had in the past, is Game Pass is more about that investment for the future currently, because with the Bethesda titles coming, and all of the studios obviously that they've acquired that we know are going to be first party titles that are going to come on straight onto Game Pass and day one. That's the sort of thing that actually, yes, you've got right now, you've got some good titles on there and a lot of average titles, but actually in the next year or two, you're going to be picking up some really high quality titles. Starfield alone is going to be worth having Game Pass when that comes out.
Skyrim 2, baby.
Halo, and it's just Senua's Sacrifice, Hellblade 2, whatever that's the new one's going to be called. Just those games alone make Game Pass worthwhile long term.
Yeah, there's no denying it's like really good value for money.
Yeah.
Just for me personally, it's not how I like consume games. Like there's too much choice on there for me.
Yeah.
I'll look at a game, I'll install it. I'll spend more time installing games than I will actually playing them. And then the other day, I fired my Xbox up for the first time in about 2-3 months. I'm still paying for Game Pass all this time, and I look at all the games and I download Banjo-Kazooie and play like a 20-year-old game. So it's just not. I don't know. It's just like not.
Yeah, I get
what not there for me yet.
I do get what you're saying, in that it's that a bit like Netflix. There is so much choice that actually you end up going on Netflix, spending half an hour flicking through, going, "What am I going to watch?" and not watching anything and just turning it off,
or watching the same shit you've seen 1,000 times. That's what I do.
Yeah, watching like an old episode of Always Sunny because you're like, I've got to watch all this new stuff. I don't know what I'm watching.
Just watching
So
The Office over and over again.
exactly, I do get that frustration with sometimes more choice is too much choice, and
Same.
it becomes
Yeah.
debilitating. But I mean, I'm like you in that it's never going to be my main console. It's never going to be my core. It's going to be something that I can. It's more of an experimental console for me. It's something I can dip in and out of, try out something new, and then move on. The PS5 is going to always be my core because and I'm sure we're going to talk about it by the end of today. The PS5 had their recent showcase, and that alone explains why the PS5 will be my main console for the future.
Yeah, I did see that showcase and I was like, all right, okay, I need to get a PlayStation 5 now.
One last
But
thought
before-
on go. You can go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say before we get onto that, should we discuss what you've been up to, Cheese, apart from having COVID?
I've been playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla like it's my full-time job the last week. Like I am 60 hours into that game, and I think I hit a glitch or something where literally I think I posted on Twitter. I was either 20 or 30 hours into it, and I got an achievement for completing the prologue. I was like, what? 30 hours? I think what happened was I got so distracted with all this side stuff, all these collectibles, whatever, that I just wasn't doing the main story. Or when I got Valhalla, it's the PS4 disc, and then it has the PS5 digital version with it. And one time when I went to play Splitgate or something, I think I switched back into it, but into the PS4 version, and so things got a little weird. So I think I might have accidentally put a bunch of time into one that I didn't mean to. So once I figured that out, I made sure it was PS5. In the very beginning, so Mike started it. Shane, did you play this at all?
Yeah, I put probably about 20, 25 hours in before I was
Okay.
like, fuck this shit, I'm bored now, and then
So-
sold it on.
So when I didn't play as much of the story in the beginning as I wanted to, but you don't really have enough power to do so. You're kind of just exploring, and that's good enough. It's a beautiful game. The soundtrack, the score, whatever, the music is amazing. Like visually, it's maybe the best visual game I've ever seen so far. But you just don't really care about the story. There's just like a lot going on, and all these names you can't even pronounce, and all these people that they're talking about, these places you're supposed to go, and it's just so foreign to you in the beginning. I just skipped through all of it. So I started to do a bunch of the side stuff, which I love doing the side stuff. I don't know why it is, but I just love like getting the collectibles, doing the raids. All that stuff is really fun.
Stacking the stones.
Stacking the stones. That part was actually pretty cool. I did enjoy that. Becca was watching me play it then. I'm like, I gotta stack stones. She goes, what? I'm like, it's awesome. So eventually in Valhalla, I don't think this is really spoilers for anybody who expects a game about Valhalla to have anything to do with Norse mythology, but you end up, okay, actually, let me go back. Half this game is about tripping your balls off, which is fantastic. I love that part of it. There's like all these little side quests where you eat mushrooms and you just kill like these fake things that aren't there. You're just tripping balls hard. And then there's this seer in your village in whatever it's called, Ravensthorn.
Yeah, something like that.
And you go to her and she makes you this concoction and you take it and you trip balls as somebody else in Asgard. So at that point, I'm like, all right, this is pretty cool. From that point on, so that was probably at hour 30. So another 30 hours on top of that, I'm invested in this game hard. Once you get to Asgard and get to do that kind of stuff, it just becomes way more familiar. You kind of know what's happening. You like want to keep going because you want to see what happens next and you want to keep exploring. And then they're like, oh, Mimir's here. And you're like, Mimir, I know him from God of War. And so you just kind of like snowball into all this stuff and you get really excited and just want to keep playing. And now here I am. Like I said, I've done some work from home this week, but most of the time it's been my ass parked on the couch in front of my TV with my PS5 controller in hand playing Valhalla. And I honestly think, to me, I don't know what you guys will think about this comment, so I'm kind of curious to see. This feels more like a God of War side story, continuation something, than it does Assassin's Creed. The fact that they put Assassin's Creed before the Valhalla part of this game ruins it a little bit for me because, like, at least the way my character's set up, which that could be a huge factor, is like there's not a ton of like assassination targets. There's not a ton of sneaking around and stealth attacks. There's not a ton of like, it's a much more like kind of like God of War.
Viking-y
Yeah,
game.
like it's a Viking game. Like it's just a brute force, pillage the village and take all their gold kind of game. And it's amazing for that. But to make it sound like the other Creed games, it's not at all.
It almost, I think it could have been sold better as just Valhalla, a story within the Assassin's Creed universe, because that's
Absolutely.
what it is, isn't it? It's not. It's set within the Assassin's Creed universe, but like you say, the actual links to Assassin's Creed are loose at best.
Well, and the
I know
actual
you've got the
links,
modern day story, but
yeah.
that's still loose.
Well, and the actual links to the Creed story, I mean, like there is the Brotherhood, and you can do some like targets that you're supposed to kill. There's a whole order of people you're supposed to kill. Kind of stupid. And then there's these different bits in the world where you'll be like running around, and all of a sudden it'll start to glitch. And then there's like a world event, and then you have to like basically it's a data stream that's been like screwed up, and you have to like fix it through a puzzle. So like there's these light beams, you got to light up blocks, whatever.
Yeah,
It's so
everything just suddenly
stupid.
turns into Tron.
It's the
Yeah,
most forced part of the game is trying to make it be a
Yeah.
Creed game. Like there's one part where like your world flickers and you're in like modern times, you're this woman, and then that's it. You don't even know her name, you don't know anything that's going on, you don't know why you're doing it, none of it. And that's fine. You don't need it because the world is so like you get lost in it. And for them
you
to
kind
like
of
they just kind of try to force you into this little Assassin's Creed corner and it's not needed.
I always skip straight past those bits because they're so dull to me. Like I don't care
yeah.
about that. I want to be in this world that you've created.
But
That you
like
spent like
But like in God of War, I mean, there was a ton of cutscenes, and I watched every single one of them because from the beginning, it's got you. You're gripped, and then with Creed, it's like 30 hours into it. Now I'm hooked. What the fuck was I doing for the first 30 hours, and why did I keep
yeah.
playing? But I'm glad
It's
I kept
almost as
playing.
if Ubisoft need to, like you say, bin off the Creed part and just make these historical epic games set in different time periods, but that are just games around those time periods. So, like you say, a Viking game that's just a Viking game where you get to be
It's
a Viking and it's not linked
it,
to.
it's like I mean, they are trying to tell two stories that are running parallel. And it's just it'd be so much better if they just focused on the
Yeah.
fun part of the game, which is all the Vikings and all the Greek mythology and all that stuff.
Well, it's a story inside of a story inside of a story because you're supposed to be some lady in the Animus or whatever it's called, and then you're Ivor, and then you're also tripping balls to be, uh, what's the name? Davi or
Dominus.
Javi, and he's supposed to be some like god, and so then you're like hanging out with Thor and Loki and all this stuff, and that part's awesome. But it's just like they just muddied the waters for the sake of putting Assassin's Creed on the title on the front of the box, which for the sake of like having a reputation, that's not a bad thing. But the game is better than that. Like it doesn't need it. It's a good game as it is, and they just kind of
Yeah.
added all these extra garbage bits because they thought they had to.
Well, on the
I
note
think
of extra garbage, sorry, Mike, this is something that, and it's a massive Ubisoft thing, and this is something that I really struggled with, and why I ended up essentially selling it and not finishing it. Ubisoft seem to have this thing about games have to be these massive open worlds, and it's to the point now that it feels massive for the sake of being massive, and I just get map fatigue after like 20 hours, and still only seeing that I've only unlocked like 20% of the map. I'm just like, oh, I'm done. I'm done of looking at fields and trees in England. I'm done of sailing these rivers that all look identical to each other. I'm just done with that, and I get such major map fatigue when maps are too big. I just can't deal with it.
I think
I'm the same with those big open worlds. Like I have to be super invested in the game to fully explore them all.
I think I almost I don't think I'm done yet, but I'd say I'm 95% of the way with the exploration of England. That's it. I don't think I even have all of you start in Norway. I don't think I have all of that discovered yet, but I love being able to just run around and do that kind of stuff. To me, that's most of the game. Like I'm saving the story because I know it's there waiting for me. But you have to level up too, which is also kind of a thing they screwed up on. They did do a good job of like your your ammunition, like your arrows, you almost always have some because there's always some laying around. Your health is always pretty high and you have plenty of food, but they did cap it. So it's like you can only carry 18 arrows at a time until you upgrade to have 20 arrows. And it's like, well, that's stupid. Why can't I just buy 10,000 arrows and not have to worry about it? Same with food. You can only carry as many rations as you have available in your bag. And so it takes quite a bit of time and quite a bit of resources to be able to get up to, I think 6 is the maximum, which there are other power-ups and stuff, so you really don't have to worry about dying anymore. Like your health will regenerate, that kind of stuff. Or you're
I'd
just
also like to point
overpowered.
out that I have not got the strength of a Viking, and I can definitely carry more than 6 sandwiches on me. Just saying.
I'll go do it right now.
I could, just in my arms, I could carry more than 6, let alone in a bag.
They just made weird little choices like that, where it's like, okay, you really care that I can only carry 3, like, berries to make me feel better with my health. Like, they just made weird choices where the game is super easy in some regards. There's no weight limit to how much stuff you can carry, like Skyrim, which was like the downfall of Skyrim for me. That bugged me so much. I always had to carry all the rocks and stuff because they were worth money. But then Skyrim's like, or not Skyrim, Assassin's Creed, and then they're like, oh yeah, you can only carry 3 berries in case you die. There's just no real consistency. They made some weird choices. I still stand by the fact that it feels like an open world God of War, which is fantastic. It's just some people want to play the story for the story and not power level for 60 hours to get there.
Just a note on God of War. I did watch Jedi stream, and he was going through the Asgard part, and it just, I couldn't help but compare it to God of War, and just all of the gods looked like they were just ordered off Wish.
Yeah.
Like in comparison to like Ragnarok and the God of War game,
Yeah.
which I did replay through recently after watching the trailer.
The storytelling in God of War makes God of War an amazing game, and that's probably the best game I've ever played. So there's no disputing that for me. I have no argument there. But if you look at this game for what it is, and then like you're still Ivor, but then you also get to be Javi and see all those gods and stuff, and then really they're mostly just there as puzzle pieces that they don't do anything. You don't partner with them. Loki, you see a little bit more of here and there, as you would expect of Loki, but it's not super tacky, and Asgard itself is pretty cool because you actually get to explore it. You didn't really get to do that kind of stuff so much in God of War, so it would have been a good, like, it's a good parallel. If you loved God of War, you will enjoy Assassin's Creed Valhalla for what it is for some amount of time, whether it's 20 hours or it's 150. Guess we'll see if you get COVID and have time to do
it. I mean, talking God of War, that's probably a good opportunity for us to slip into the Ragnarok trailer.
Yeah, man, that fucking blew me away. I watched it. I was like, right, now is the time to get a PS5. I've been kind of holding back / not being able to get one because the stock's so scarce. And I joined all these like Discords and stuff of like stock checkers and all this stuff, which is the most toxic Discords I've ever been in my life.
Oh God, imagine.
Yeah, they're terrible. But through those, I managed to find some stock. Ordered a PS5, managed to get one. Got to the shop, got my nice little ticket in hand with my number and everything, and they were like, "Oh, we've already someone's already collected that." I was like, "What?" I am not leaving here without my goddamn PlayStation. Luckily, they had one in the back, and all the staff were like super nice and everything, really helpful. And they didn't see a grown man cry to that day.
They probably did. Whoever's PS5 you got, that guy's a wreck right now.
Yeah. Well, come at me.
It's too late. You've got it now. Yeah. But I mean that Ragnarok trailer, like you say, was not only was it fantastic, but it came off the back of a very strong, the very end of a very strong showcase anyway. So anyone listening who didn't see, following on from the showcases over the summer with Gamescom and everything from Xbox and all the other teams, Sony finally came out of their silence for the last 2-3 months and hit us with the sort of next big PS5 showcase, and they dropped not only God of War Ragnarok, which everybody was waiting for, but also Spider-Man 2, which obviously blew lots of people away as well,
Mm.
and showcased the fact that both Miles and Peter Parker are going to be Spider-Man in Spider-Man 2. You'll be able to potentially play as both or at least one with the other alongside you, and it will have Venom in it, which is
Yeah.
exciting. And
I
then
think that Venom will be playable at some point.
potentially, and have you heard the comment from the producers about how they're seeing Spider-Man 2?
No,
Yeah, it's like a horror game, right? It's supposed to be super dark.
It's
like a
meant to be
darker
really
story.
dark, really sort of like quite yeah, quite sort of dark and gripping, but they've referred to it as their Empire Strikes Back. So
Oh, right,
any
okay.
Star Wars fans
Oh, yeah.
know that Empire Strikes Back is like seen as one of the best Star Wars films, and it's like the crux of perfect Star Wars storytelling. And then they also hit us with Wolverine, which nobody saw coming.
Not at all, but I am so fucking hyped for that game.
That's gonna be
Interest.
awesome.
The thing that's
Yeah.
most interesting to me is it's set in the Spider-Man universe.
Yep. Which
So
leads to like so much potential in the future.
so much potential.
Of like crossovers, you know, and like a new Avengers game type, you know, going down that MCU type route where they're linking all these games together for the future. Like there's so much potential there. It's so exciting.
And Wolverine and Spider-Man are like maybe two of the most diversified comic book characters. Like they were all parts of every group at one point or another. Like those two
Yeah.
comic heroes were everywhere. So
The big one for
Fantastic
me is
Four,
X-Men. It's like if they go
X-Men.
down X-Men route, so good.
It could be.
Well,
I'm so excited.
There was a short comic run that was Spider-Man and Wolverine together, and it was like a specific comic run of them two together. And I wonder if at the back of Spider-Man 2 or at the back of Wolverine, there's going to be a DLC which will tell the story of that comic run with those two as playable characters together. Because that would be pretty sick if there was like a 3-piece DLC like they did for the first Spider-Man, but that was specifically set around the Spider-Man Wolverine team up storyline.
And then there's stuff with Deadpool. I mean, there's just so many because I know there's a Deadpool Wolverine team up that could be super cool. Like the sky is the limit for them. Yeah, exactly. Like the sky is the limit for this, and it's awesome.
And that wasn't even like I mean, those were the 3 highlights of the show, but they also showed Knights of the Old Republic is getting a PlayStation
remaster.
And I mean, those were the 4 biggest announcements. Then they played a bunch of stuff some stuff we had seen, some stuff we hadn't. But on the whole, it was just a fantastic showing, and it's a really good time to be a gamer.
Yeah,
A really good time. So many things coming from both Microsoft and Sony that are just pushing the boundaries and limitations of what gaming can do. It's a solid time to be involved in video games.
Yeah, and more recently as well, the Nintendo showcase, which wasn't as strong in my opinion. It showed some alright stuff. Showed Bayonetta finally got some gameplay for that, which is
excited
great.
for that.
Yeah, that looks great. A bunch of other stuff, but like they showed a Kirby game which looked shit. Like nobody's come out and said this yet. I've seen it just looked fucking awful.
It looked like a Kirby game. It looked like all Kirby games, and it looks Kirby, in my opinion, hasn't changed since it was first sort of created. Whereas like Mario, for example, we've seen the developments and changes in Mario in the most recent Mario game, not Mario Golf, like Mario's proper game,
Odyssey.
Yeah, Odyssey, that's the one. You can see the development from the old 2D side-scrolling Mario to where he is now, whereas Kirby doesn't feel like it's changed at all. Kirby feels like it's stuck in how it was first created, and it's just never going anywhere.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it runs on nostalgia as well. Like if you played Kirby as a kid, then you're going to be excited.
I was going to say I've never played a Kirby game.
Yeah, me neither. So for me, it's just lost on me.
I played one, and but I played it as an adult, and I wasn't massively impressed by it. I've never particularly been a fan of Kirby as a whole anyway.
I haven't played a ton of Mario games though, realistically either. I mean, I played Mario 64 several times and grew up with that game, but after that, I don't think I probably finished one until Odyssey, which I absolutely loved, but I never played Mario Sunshine or Galaxy. I never played those. I have them on Switch, and maybe someday I'll play them, but Odyssey was actually a lot of fun with some of the real world graphic stuff thrown in there with like the dinosaur and like the New York City side of things. Like that game was fantastic.
I mean, I still
Yeah.
need to play Odyssey, but
Oh, it's so
I've
good.
spoke about my not hatred, but my dislike of Mario before, because I never got on with the original Mario games. I've never really enjoyed them. But talking about Mario, we can't possibly come away from this conversation without talking about the Mario movie.
I'd almost repress this memory of this.
I forgot about it.
I thought about nothing for a week solid. The Mario movie announcement for one, they're making a Mario movie, and just the voice acting cast is just insane.
Yeah.
In the best and worst possible ways.
Yeah, it's a weird one because on one hand you're like, these are all fantastic actors. On the other hand, you're like, this is just doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
So
just,
first of
yeah.
all, for anyone listening that doesn't know, Chris Pratt will be playing Mario,
Which worries
is
me.
so fucking
It worries me a little bit.
oh.
It's like, do you have him do the accent or do you not have him do the accent? But he almost has to do the accent. Like, if he doesn't, then it's not Mario. It's just Chris Pratt or like the Lego movie guy. So, like, he has to do the accent. But I agree
Yeah.
with you. Like, the cast is so huge and so well known, and we know those voices so well. Like, how, like, they're either gonna have to nail it and be Mario and Bowser and all these people, or they should have just used the voice cast that does like the games. Like, that's what we
Yeah,
know.
Yeah.
But and the thing with the Chris Pratt, I mean, I've never heard Chris Pratt do Italian. I'm sure he does a very good Italian accent. I'm not saying he doesn't. But all I can think about is that scene in literally all I can think about is that scene in Inglorious Bastards where he's like, I speak the second best Italian. That's all I can think about when I think about Chris Pratt trying to do an Italian accent. I know he's not even in that film, but that's how it's playing out in my head.
Yeah.
But that's I
So,
imagine that was the meeting that they had with Nintendo. It's just like which of you can speak Italian, and that's how it played out.
That's going to be the headlines after this film comes out. It's like Chris Pratt offends Italy.
Italy doesn't
I mean,
care.
Yeah.
the question is though, with Mario being a Japanese created character
Yes.
that is also are Italians even
Yeah.
precious about Mario? Do they care?
I don't know.
I've talked about this
I mean,
several times with people before, and I want to know the reasons behind. Maybe there are reasons, I don't know, but like, you can't do that. Like, we can't create a game about a Japanese plumber and call them kind of Japanese names. Like, the Japanese were able to do this to the Italians. Like, nobody else can do that now. And the fact that they got away with it, he's very stereotypical. He's one noodle away from eating spaghetti. Otherwise, everything else.
He doesn't even live in Italy though, does he? He's meant to be an Italian American plumber who lives in America
in the Mushroom
and then ends up
Kingdom.
going to the Mushroom Kingdom.
Like a fun fact
At least
about
in the original
Mario.
film.
It's so pointed that that's the issue. Like, why'd he have to be any nationality at all? He's a fictional character in a Mushroom Kingdom. They got that part right. They made that up. They didn't say in like Brooklyn. It's the Mushroom Kingdom. So why'd they have to get so specific about his ancestry? It's just a weird thing to do.
I mean, where does he live in the original horrendous film?
Yeah.
Like Brooklyn or something. I don't know.
I think that is New York.
I think it is Brooklyn.
I think it is too.
I'm just going to look on Google right now.
I just picked a random
It
city
is-
for the record.
In the Super Mario Brothers movie, Mario and Luigi live in Brooklyn.
Well,
Yeah.
that's an interesting coincidence because I saw the movie once when I was like 4 and it was terrifying.
So they're Italian American plumbers that live in Brooklyn.
I like that. Just when Shane was doing his like research, then the anime glasses like come with the glare on everything.
I mean, it's
I must do my research.
if only I had had them a little bit further down, so I could have pushed them up as I went to do it. I must do my research on this. But yeah, no, some really good points for them. And on the note of while we're talking about things that have come out of Japan, in our last sort of 10-15 minutes, I know Cheese, you wanted to touch on some anime today.
Yes.
While we've got the opportunity to, and Mike, you've dabbled in a little bit more recently.
Yeah, I've been trying to keep up with some anime stuff. Yeah, it's hard. There's a lot.
So much.
I've been designated like 2 days a week to just plowing through some anime.
You
so I
watched
managed to get...
Star Wars Visions, right?
Yes,
Talk about
yes.
that.
Oh,
Star Wars Visions was great.
I haven't watched
so
it
fucking
yet.
good. It's I said this like to anyone that will listen, that it is the best Star Wars content in years.
And
Like, absolutely is.
the thing is, though, it's not, because none of it's canon, is it? It's all
No, but
conceptual.
it should be. It should be canon. These
It
worlds
is
that they're
now.
creating, all this like crazy stuff. Like, even if they drop the sort of Japanese element to it that's in a lot of the episodes, and just make it more sort of Americanized, or whatever they want to do with it, and make it more so it is kind of canon. But they run with
Yeah,
these
I
like
mean,
these stories of these other worlds and
they should definitely do that. And obviously, they started that with Mandalorian, didn't they? And that's why
yeah,
that's such a success, is because it comes away from the core Star Wars story that everyone gets forced down our throat with the Skywalker Jedi story. The problem with Visions, and I absolutely love it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's bad at all. Is from a canon perspective, it goes against a lot of the preset rules of Star Wars.
like the balance and all that.
Well, the key one, for example, the episode Twins by Trigger completely changes the way lightsabers work. It doesn't follow the true pattern of how a lightsaber works. For example, lightsabers can't bend, particularly like the way that they're built. The blade itself is never
Yeah,
bent and cannot be bent. And Twins changes that up massively because of the way that Trigger does their anime style and the way that Trigger animates fight scenes. It's all very colourful and very flowy,
yeah.
which kind of goes against the way that works. And the other
That's what I
one,
mean. If you were to just drop those small little details and make it more
oh, definitely, they could
in line
definitely
with Star
do more
Wars.
with it. The other one, I can't remember what it's called, but it's one of the last ones, and it's the one that basically looks like Astro Boy. It's
Yeah,
like the
yeah,
one that couldn't be more Japanese if it tried. Like it
yeah,
felt
yeah,
like 1950s, 1960s style animation, and it felt like Astro Boy. And in that one, without spoiling too much, essentially a robot is able to access the Force, and that again goes against the canon
yeah.
of what is applicable in the Star Wars universe. But from a conceptual point of view, fantastic. Really
Yeah.
opened up the doors of what is available, and
It's like they showed how much potential it's got with all these like shorter stories, and like you could take any one of those miniatures and just turn it into a full blown story. Like
so
there's one with like a blacksmith and or a lightsaber smith or whatever.
so
So
there's a
there's,
point I want to raise, and this might be controversial, and I know that a certain person, Ryan, is gonna probably get arsy at me for this. So I've watched a couple of episodes of What If. I haven't watched all of What If, and I will put that out there. I haven't watched the entirety of What If, but to me, Visions felt more like a multiversal story because of the changing in artwork and the changing of styles than What If did, because What If used the same art styles throughout.
I didn't like
And
their
it
art
didn't.
style either in What If for some
I
reason.
hate the art style in What If. I think it's
yeah,
horrible.
Yeah, it bugged me.
And I think if each story was told with a different art style, and why with like a bit like Visions has been done, like in a different style, it would make that multiversal element feel more multiversal. Whereas
yeah.
I don't think What If felt massively multiversal. If that makes sense. I've said the word multiversal a lot, so
Do you even know what that
Yeah, I
means?
get what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't even know if it's a real word. So
I know what you're talking
Just
about
made it
though.
up.
I haven't
That's what we
watched.
do on this
I've
podcast.
watched one episode of What If, and I hated it. It was the one where
was it the first
Panther,
episode?
Black Panther's in the Guardians of the Galaxy,
Oh, the second episode. Yeah.
and it
So
How
was
did
what
you
I've been
start on
told
the
is the
second
first two.
episode?
it was just.
There's an order to these things.
It was when I was on vacation. For some reason, my friend's like, "Oh, have you seen this show yet?" And my other friends were like,
Oh,
"No."
okay.
So we sat and watched it. I'm like, "What the? I didn't fly all the way here to watch What If, let alone a shitty episode."
From what I've been told, is the first two episodes are the worst two episodes, but that's not a great way to hook people on your show, is by having the first two episodes as the worst two.
Yeah.
That does not hook people if they have to sit through shit to get to the good stuff.
Yeah.
There's two episodes that I really enjoyed, and they actually link. is there's a Doctor Strange one and a Ultron one, and they link together, and that's kind of good. And it seems like
I've been told the Doctor Strange one is
That's
probably
what I've
the
heard.
best one.
Yeah.
yeah, I think it is. Yeah,
Yeah, I haven't told it. It's
And
quite
then-
dark
and then
and
But like if I
in
watch
its
just that one, I'm not missing anything, right? Because that's its own specific story.
no, because that's the point. Is each
Okay.
one is a story within its own multiverse. But this is where I think having changing animation styles would make that feel more like that. Whereas it doesn't.
That's a
To
good
me,
point.
it just feels like an anthology of stories as opposed to a multiverse.
Yeah.
yeah. I think you could get away with watching the Doctor Strange one and the last one and know enough to sort of because it's telling a set sort of story, isn't it? About
Yeah.
there's definitely something there they're going to move on with in future projects.
Nice.
Well, I think
I think-
they're working towards is it Secret Wars and the Multiverse War.
Yeah,
Crossing over and potentially, obviously, the theories around potentially there being multiple Spider-Men in Spider-Man. It's all kind of linking towards that. I mean, we already know that it's going to have the 2000 and whatever it was 2004 Doc Ock, potentially the Green Goblin from those films because we've seen those in the trailer. And there's some other things that have come out over the last couple of days that kind of link a bit more information, which I'm not going to touch on because it's spoilerific. But I know there's information that's come out over the last couple of days. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It's definitely interesting.
yeah.
The other point of anime cheese worth talking to you about specifically, because I don't think Mike's watched this, is we've just hit the end of My Hero season 5.
Yeah. Honestly, it was a very long season. I mean, I literally started watching My Hero like when they were on episode 15 or something of the season, and I've watched it twice all the way through since then. So it's been a slow crawl to get finished with this. And honestly, I didn't love the end. I mean, there's not really anything to spoil per se, but the story's just been building and building and building. And obviously, season 6, there's stuff's going to come to a head and going to be a giant battle of some sort. But I feel like they spent a little too long on parts of it. Just like the villain arc to me got a little boring when it was 4 weeks in a row with no heroes. Even though they did call it My Villain Academia, I liked that. But we got some great character development out of it. But at the same time, it's just like, where are all the other characters? You have 25 characters sitting over there that we've all, like, those are our favorite characters. And now we have to watch Shigaraki for 5 episodes.
So,
Yeah,
Mike,
that-
have you
that-
watched any of My Hero Academia?
I've watched a good chunk. But yeah, I think that maybe that's like the issue with having so many characters is like it's hard to give all of them enough screen time kind of thing. Because there's a lot of
Well-
heroes I've seen that are like I kind of want to see more about them, but then it's like the main characters like arc and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
Well, the biggest issue with this season, so the actual length of the season, Cheese, has been exactly the same as every other season, with the exception of season 1, which was shorter. So the actual amount of episodes has been
Right,
identical
yeah,
to the previous season. So it's not been any longer than any other season.
But just
but
when
it
you
has
add,
felt it.
yeah, well, I guess for me it was weird because I had watched 115 episodes and then I had to wait every week for the next one. So 15 weeks,
Yeah.
that's a long time. That's almost 4 months.
One of the big issues is though the previous seasons within the manga, there's lots of different arcs. In previous seasons, each half of each season is focused on one arc generally. So you've got one sort of fairly continuous story for 12 episodes that comes to a head, and then it moves on to the next part of the arc of the manga. Whereas from the end of season 4, or halfway through season 4 to the end of season 5, they've covered like 4 or 5 arcs in very quick succession. Because it's clear they want to do the next arc is the biggest in the manga, and it's clear that's what they want to cover in the next season.
Yeah.
So it feels like they've just rushed through some. So for example, the work studies arc, where we get to see our 3 favorite characters go off and spend time with a pro hero and like do heroing, just happens like that. It's like 2 episodes long.
I think it is
happens
2.
instantaneously.
I think it's 2, but one of those episodes is just them going to dinner at the household. That was
it
half
feels
the arc.
like absolutely nothing happens, and just like that, it's over. And this season goes from it's the Christmas 100th episode special is the Christmas episode.
I like that one.
But this just shows how much time passes in this one season. So we have the first arc, the Christmas episode, and between that episode and where we are now is now spring.
Yeah.
That's how much time has passed in like 6 episodes. It's gone from Christmas to spring,
Their first
and
year of
we've
high
not
school was
finished any
like
of it.
4 seasons long. 5 seasons. That was literally the whole.
They're still in. They're still in their first year.
Yeah. So the whole series has been the first year, and it's 130 episodes.
And they haven't finished the first year
Almost
yet.
right. They're almost done with the first year.
So that all of season 6 will likely be set, or at least half of season 6 will likely be set in the first year as well.
Right. The end, and then they have their exams, their finals, or whatever.
I mean, because I'm reading the manga, there's stuff I know, and I'm not going to speak about it on the podcast, so I don't want to give you spoilers. But there's things that will happen that's going to be very interesting moving forward as to how they're going to play it out.
I love
we
that
do
show.
have a film coming up as well.
Yep.
There's a film coming out in a month.
Yeah.
I think it's a month. Yeah, well, less than a month now.
Another anime that I spent a lot of time watching. I am almost done with Jujutsu Kaisen, and I started rewatching Demon Slayer, but I needed something easy to watch, so I just turned it on, and I've been watching Haikyuu like crazy. I can't stop watching that damn show, and I think the thing that caught me off guard was how good a show about volleyball could be. Like I played volleyball 1 year on a team, and I was in 4th grade, so I was like 10 years old. But as a 10-year-old, volleyball is awesome. You get to dive around and play, and it's a fun game. But to watch this show, I've now finished the first season, so like 25 episodes, I think. It sounds like the most complicated and strategic sport in the world. That is probably the most underrated sport in the world, and like the season ends with like a 5-episode long look at a single match that was probably like an hour and a half long to play, maybe at most. But it's so well done, and the characters develop really well, and there's just something about anime, and I don't know if it's that old-timey cartoon thing, like where it's just like you're a kid again watching some stupid shit, watching Hey Arnold on Saturday morning because you love, like, I don't know if it's just that happy place thing, but like the show makes you actually laugh out loud, and it's just an easy watch. It's the style I love to see, like what they can do with it and the way they frame certain shots. Like it's just so well done. And I actually was talking to one of my brothers, actually both of them, because they were telling me to watch. There's a new show on Netflix. I can't remember what it's called, but it's got the guy from Entourage in it. They're like, "Oh, you should watch that." Like, can't watch an anime. And they're like, "Why?" And I'm like, "Well, it's kind of hard to explain, but someday we can, like, next time I see you, we'll sit down and have a conversation, and I'll prove to you, like, I'll convince you that anime is good." He's like, "Honestly, that'd be a great conversation because there are so many people I know that I would never expect to watch anime, and I just don't get it." So I'm starting to prepare a very put together presentation, PowerPoint, something to convince him that, like, these cartoons aren't for kids. They're amazing, and here's why.
But that's the thing. It's so hard to get for some people to get past the fact that it's animated.
Yeah.
They just think, oh, it's animated, therefore it must be for kids. But
if they
I
put
have
that show
watched-
with real actors on the CW, millions of kids would watch it. But it's not really a kid show in that instance. But like Demon Slayer live action would be amazing, but it would also cost millions upon millions. Whereas they can draw it and still give that brutal effect where you still see something and you're like, oh my God, it's animated. But they can do it so well with the storytelling that it doesn't matter that it's animated. It's good that it's animated.
I don't think it would be as good if it's live action. And
I agree.
That's the thing that I try to tell people when I'm explaining how good anime is. Anime can tell stories in a way that live action can't, because it has that freedom of animation, that freedom of artwork to be able to go down routes that a lot of live action shows can't do.
Yeah.
But also, I have seen more in-depth, like really deep, heartwarming stories from anime than I have any other medium.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't rely on acting skills. It doesn't rely on if you have a really good show but it's got a shit actress or actor, then it almost makes the whole thing like hard to watch. Whereas anime, there's obviously voice acting, but the way that they draw it and the what they can do with the animation itself can just like really ground the emotion in it.
Yeah, I think the animation lends a lot to, like, obviously anime is like it's the stylistic choice as well. Like things with like Castlevania, Demon Slayer, they have these like really detailed animation. It's just like if you sit back and just watch and appreciate how well animated it is, then all of that comes after it. You know, like all the storytelling and all that. Like I tend to just have anime on in the background, and then when it catches my eye and stuff, then I'll be more absorbed into it. But that's just sort of how I take that content in, kind of thing.
100%. And one of the biggest, Demon Slayer is a perfect example of why a lot of anime doesn't work in live action. So when Demon Slayer, when he uses obviously his sword arts, that would just be a sword fight in live action, because it wouldn't have that beautiful like hand drawn waves coming around him and like fire coming around him. It would just be a sword fight. Whereas because it's anime, they can make it look almost like a tapestry of water effects around him, and he's a stunning anime, that one.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah,
Castlevania is another good one. It's
So
not
good.
as vibrant and like eye catching as what Demon Slayer is, but Castlevania does like this really well animated. It's like really fluid and it's just such a pleasure to watch.
Yeah.
Well, I think anime is definitely going to end up being a topic of conversation on a more regular basis on these episodes.
I hope so.
Yeah, I think we've got a lot to say about anime.
Oh, 100%. And there's a lot of really good animes coming that I think people need to try out and get more involved in.
Yeah.
But Mike, do you
More
want to?
anime. Yeah, so that's the show. That's this week's show. You can catch us every 2 weeks on a Tuesday if Cheese does his editing on time, which you know he's very good at. He's much more talented than I was.
Thanks. Good save. I guess it will be Tuesday.
Yeah, you can catch me streaming on Twitch on a Monday and Wednesday every week at about 8ish UK time. You can catch the podcast on the Tuesday in between. Yeah, so that's the episode. So we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Triple XP.